Have you ever wondered how to migrate from Salesforce into HubSpot? I'm going to do my best shot at summarizing this using our 3 key variables of how we think of it at RevPartners. RevPartners is an elite HubSpot agency where we've done hundreds of migrations using this framework to go about it. So you'll notice that there's 3 key variables here. We have data, we have integrations, and we also have processes. So we'll get into each one of these, but this is the last video in a series where we talk about each one of these variables individually. So from there, what is a CRM migration? This can be something from a complicated software like Salesforce into a HubSpot, but this could be something as you just have a Google Sheet and you want to get that into HubSpot. At the root of why you deal with a migration, because migrations are hard no matter what, is you want to have a one singular source of truth. This is why it's worth doing it. And by having that singular source of truth, it gives you that foundation for additional functionality where you have trust in the data. Now, how do we streamline the time and make things more efficient for our team members, which really just sets you up for success for having this best-in-class CRM. So at a high level, this is how we go about it. When you're thinking about Salesforce and HubSpot, you have your data, which is your objects and your properties that intertwine together with your integrations, aka the tech stack that you have. We're in a very sophisticated era of software where if you have a CRM, especially like a Salesforce or a HubSpot, you probably already have 10 pieces of other pieces of software. How do you intertwine those? And then when you're thinking about sunsetting it, what is that different timeline? And processes are the user stories and the routine actions that your team does. Whenever you're thinking of any migration, you want to think of what your ideal go live date is, because from there, what you do is you reverse engineer the timeline of all the other things. Like, oh, this integration is going to take a couple months. This other one's going to take a couple months. Okay, maybe we need to push out the go live date, or we really need to put some emphasis on integrations now. By having this, it really opens up that conversation. So the way we think of it is you can stack all of these on top of each other. At the bottom layer, you have your data that you're always thinking about because at a migration from a simple to a basic one, from a basic to a complex, you have data that has to move from point A to point B. So you always want to be thinking about the data, especially as you do look into some of these processes. It really showcases which data is really essential and which data is not, especially when you get into integrations. When you're thinking about all the different tech stack you have intertwined there, there's a process associated with that integration. And there's different data that's associated with this integration. So data is at a foundational layer of both of these, but which integrations and processes you really want to prioritize and are essential, highlight which data is essential to really focus in on. So now I want to talk about the things to know with each of these. The summary with all of this is that they're all intertwined. I want to call out a couple things with each of these, with each video, before I go into depth with each of them. But in summary, all of these are intertwined, as I tried to do highlight in the milestone roadmap there. And since they're all intertwined, the better the documentation you have, the easier this will be. You cannot be too prepared. There will always be things that come up that you're not thinking of. So the better you can be prepared for the different aspects, it just helps you deal with those fires that arise, that come up. Data is the objects and fields, and which data is really essential is determined based off the processes and integrations. You may have hundreds of custom fields within your CRM. The reality is probably they're not all essential. So when you get into what are the daily processes and the integrations that are at play, you might actually realize which data is actually matters and which data does not matter. Integrations, it's hard. And sometimes you simply just can't test an integration. An integration can only be connected to one CRM at a time. So you might have to create a free account, and remember that these are other businesses that are trying to keep you as a customer. So reach out to them for support. See if they can help give you a free trial with a paid account if they don't allow a free account to be tied to the APIs. They want to help you, and maybe you want to work with a partner who's done specific integrations that you've done. We obviously have worked with a lot of different integrations moving from a Salesforce to a HubSpot, but maybe you have a very specific tech stack, and maybe there's a specific partner who's worked with that tech stack and can help you mitigate some of those fires that come up naturally. And processes is that you have more than you think. It just ranges from all these manual little data updates that you might not realize to after a sales call, to all the different automations that you have from when they fill out a form. Then there's an email that goes out. Well, then there's this email cadence that's intertwined with that follow-up email. As you unravel the nest, you realize how many different processes are intertwined. So the better the documentation, it plays into this one, the better the documentation, the easier it will be, but it will never be easy. And so this format I find really helpful to understand. It's similar to the other one, but highlighting how they're intertwined. So if you're moving from Salesforce to HubSpot, yes, you have data like a connection from an opportunity to a deal. Then you have different fields. You have opportunity name, opportunity type, those map to different field names. Processes highlight that your opportunity name and opportunity type, there's some type of process that updates these. It may be an automation, but it could be just what your CRM or your sales rep is doing on a day-to-day basis. Maybe they're one who's updating deal type and opportunity type. So you have to think about how this data is being updated. From there, maybe moving deal stages as an automated to a manual process. So it's really getting into how are you doing X, Y, and Z thing that affects these different properties. Sending a quote, that's a certain process that has an integration, and that integration has data associated with it. So all of these are intertwined, and as you think about this simple field, it might unfold into something bigger, that there's rabbit holes all over here, but it's leaning into what really matters. I would argue opportunity name and opportunity type are very essential. First, maybe this random property you made a year ago that not even has no adoption, maybe you don't have to migrate that one and really worry about it. So I like this analogy of how migration applies to us in the everyday world. So when you're migrating from a Salesforce to a HubSpot, it's a very data-driven, you're moving, your whole company into this new thing. It's very similar to migrating across the country. So imagine you live in New York City and you have to move to LA for a new job opportunity. You have to think about the data, all of the items that you own from your bed to your kitchen table. How do you move those from New York City to LA, right? It could be a simple one where you're only thinking about moving that. But in the reality is there's a lot of processes that you do on a daily basis, from your grocery shopping to going to the gym to dropping off kids at the school. You have to think about what do those new processes look like and the different integrations, the different providers and different other entities that work with that. So you have the grocery store of where you do your grocery shopping. Your process of grocery shopping might not change much if you go to the same store, but if you have to go to a new store based off where you're living, the process of how you do grocery shopping is different. So this is kind of a fun, just playful analogy to highlight migrations are hard no matter what. If you're moving across the country from New York to LA, to moving from Salesforce to HubSpot, from even Google Sheets to HubSpot. They're hard no matter what. So give yourself some grace, prepare the best you can, but things will come up. And as you work through those, you'll get more clear with time. And there's people there to help you. RevPartners has done a lot of these. We're there to help. But it's going to be hard. There's a lot of change that happens for your end users to you who's running the migration from the start to finish. So I just want to leave you with that. Do the best you can, realize that problems are going to come up, and give yourself some grace because it's hard, but I believe in you to do it. Until next time, team. Peace.